Back there. Yeah. We're glad you're here. Everybody, sorry online. Sorry about that delay. A little bit of a Zoom issue. We are online. We are recording now, though.
There is.
Well, let's do a welcome. We can go through our welcome and some success stories while we're here. Or do you have the access to people who are online?
I do.
Well, why don't you read off who's online to start, and then we'll go around the room as people. Here comes Kelly.
11. We have 1.
Okay, perfect.
Just in time, right?
Under the wire.
Yeah, there's an exit here.
Okay.
We're voting to add members, correct? So if we have quorum, can we start there so that people back there can sit around the table? If they want to, at least. I'm really calling out Anne Marie because they give her a hard time.
Oh, yeah, it's so much nicer to have people around at the table. You're welcome. Well, I don't know. Donna Hope
Elections will be January.
I'm not talking about elections, so but if we're adding members, don't we? We don't vote on that.
Are we adding members?
We're not adding tonight.
I just asked.
Sorry.
No, we're not. That's why I was like.
Okay. So online, we have Cindy Kazowich with the HLA, Elise Minkoff, Janine Ivioli. We have Nicholas Eddy, Tony Salgado, and Lieutenant Zach Haish.
Thank you for being online. And we'll start with introductions going around. Go ahead, Beth.
Hi, I'm Beth Wetzel. I am Commissioner with Treasure Island.
Lariana Forsyth, CEO of CASA.
Michael Gilazzo, CEO of PERC.
Ross Silvers with Pinellas Suncoast Transit Authority, PSTA.
Sean King, Habitat for Humanity, Media Past Chair. Deborah State Sanders, State Newsburg City Council.
Kathleen Beckman, Clearwater City Council.
Kevin Marone, CEO for Valley Centers.
Sam Picard, Missio Day Church.
April Lott, Directions for Living, Chair of the Providers Council.
Monica Lesnick, CEO, HLA.
Victoria Kelly, Manager of Organizational Advancement, HLA.
Danielle Thomas, SPAJ.
Welcome.
Camille Henry, HCA Florida Northside Hospital.
Good morning, I'm Anne Winter with the Area Agency on Aging with Pasco Pinellas. Ellen Ryan, City of St. Petersburg.
Well, thank you. Thank you all for being here. All right, so we'll start with some success stories. Does anyone have any they'd like to share? I have one. One of our lived experience people, Jennifer Haycock, who's been here at these meetings. She lives in her car in Clearwater, and she reached out to me and said she did get she has a voucher and she has an apartment that's coming in the middle of November in Largo. So she's super excited about that. And I think that's fantastic. So help her furnish it and all that stuff.
Kevin has one.
I'll tell one. This is one I heard the other day, last week. Called her DJ. She's a young female that aged out of the foster care system, actually. And this is kind of, I think, a story of just the power of like family systems and supports and the right treatment for the right person. So in addition to her, trauma through the foster system as a youth, homelessness, she has serious mental illness, schizophrenia, and extreme psychosis, delusions, all those kinds of things. She came into Safe Haven, from the streets, stabilized there because there's pretty good support system in there, getting her on medications, kind of progressed to permanent supportive housing because she did so well there. And this is probably an example of one of those, I say about 10 to 15% of people that go into PSH are that their illness is so severe that they need even more than permanent supportive housing has to offer. She stopped taking medications, lost 20 pounds, was really emaciated on the verge of death. We got her into hospital. At that point, we two things happened. We found her sister that she'd been estranged from for a long time, and we got her connected with our SPIN team, which is the intensive service team that we started a year and a half ago through the city of St. Pete, and also part of the expansion bonus project that we got last year. So the example of that SPIN is ARPA money, right? And so we got the expansion grant with the foresight that ARPA money is going to be gone and SPIN won't be sustainable anymore. But that bonus project came in at the right time. So now as SPIN evolves, I've got the bonus project take its place. And so it's so important in the conversation of how you have to time things, because otherwise you end up in situations where you don't have the right systems in place. So she got on the SPIN team, which is, you know, you've got a nurse practitioner there, you've got nurses, she's getting multiple visits a week, she's on long-acting injectable medications, and she's stabilized, she's reconnected with her sister, they spend time together every single week, and you know, just looking forward to her continued progression. But it was a combination of those things that allowed that success, and the timing of funding is going to be essential to maintaining that. So,
and her sister's local, I guess.
Yeah, she's local, but I think they hadn't seen each other in 4 or 5 years.
What a great story.
My follow-up from the success story last month. So I told you guys about, many of you, I think, even know this individual. She lived homeless for many, many years in a wheelchair with her large black lab service animal. So she's very visible as a result. We got her into hotel under the city of Clearwater, and have been working very, very, very hard to get her a voucher so that she will be, you know, able to be housed permanently. She has a lot of support right now through Directions for Living, but she got her voucher through BOLI. She got her voucher through BOLI. It was, your staff was amazing. I mean, it was all hands on deck. She tried to blow it up about a half a dozen times. As many people who are terrified to not live on the streets, right? So that's what she's known for a very long time, and a variety of things, but she's wheelchair bound. I don't know if I told you that, but she's wheelchair bound. And, but in any case, she tried to blow it up and a half a dozen times, but the last time we swarmed the house, the hotel, and we were like, you're going in your pajamas or you're getting dressed, but one way or the other, we're leaving this hotel today, this morning, and we're going to be at BOLI on time. And we were, and she got her voucher and did well in the interview and all the things that you know she had to go through. So now we are searching. So that the next part of the story, hopefully in a couple months, will be that she has found her forever home using her voucher, and we're all good.
That's nice. That's really nice. Anybody else? So we'll move on to, we do have quorum, right, to approve the minutes. All right, did you want to take a look at the minutes and any corrections, additions?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving the minutes for September 15th?
Are we doing, I'm sorry, are we doing the consent agenda or are we just doing the minutes?
Oh, just the minutes.
Okay.
We'll do the separate minutes.
No,
Yeah.
it would be the full consent agenda,
Okay.
which would be member attendance in the minutes.
Okay, all right, so take a look at that member attendance if you want to take, if you haven't already. And make sure your attendance is accurate. And then if there's any correction, we can take any corrections to the attendance.
But the staff Zoom.
Staff Zoom did not count towards quorum, but I thought it was worth mentioning that your staff member was in attendance.
Okay.
You know, you weren't absent from the information, just didn't count for quorum.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second. Okay. Ross, you all good with looking at it? You all good?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Okay, so we have a motion in a second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, great. We're good with the consent agenda. Very good. Thank you. And we have some exciting marketing materials to look at.
Oops, yeah. We do have some exciting marketing materials. As you know, there's been some requests and conversations about how to ensure that we are marketing the COC appropriately. So our executive committee has approved the following logo as well as the letterhead. So you will start seeing information going out with the logo and the letterhead for COC specific communications. We'll also be working to get all the social medias, the Twitters, all those things connected and with a schedule of putting information out there. So I would say as things are going on in your organizations that you would like us to continue to highlight on the COC side, please send it to us. Like, this is a great opportunity because we want to grow the social media presence of the COC to support both providers and funders and amazing things going on in our community. So if you could please send us those, and thank you to Victoria Kelly and for really helping guide this. We do have a designated branding color palette that goes along with it. Gets a little technical and exciting. But these are some hashtags that we're going to be working on, our social media handle. We are working on designing a website. Obviously, that is going to take us a little time. And so we're really excited about it. And we think it's some really positive steps forward. So we will be moving that forward and also looking at some ways to help provide something maybe to board members. So if you're out in the community, maybe a COC, you know, not a business, don't want to have anything else, but something peripheral wise that you could share when you're out in the community to designate your involvement in the COC, but also what we have going on. And I don't know what that would look like, but yeah. Another COC, I don't remember which one it is. They have nice little pens. And that may sound a little hokey, but I saw it and I was like, oh, what's your pen? I mean, I immediately was like, oh, tell me about your pen. And so I think there's some ways that we could generate some questions when we're out in the community. Anything you would like to add, Victoria, on the marketing materials, since this is kind of your...
I'm really excited about this. I know that there's been a big discussion about differentiating the HLA and the COC, and I think this is a big step towards this. There are no HLA colors in this color palette. I borrowed colors that were reminiscent of a lot of the different organizations within the COC, so I really tried to be inclusive. And the social medias and the website are not available yet. I have begun working on them. It's harder to make a Facebook page than I remember. But so we are in the process of that. We are also going to have a separate COC website. You will be able to access the COC website through the HLA website. You will be able to access the HLA website through the COC website, so they will still be tied. But we'll be able to send people to the COC stuff to look at the resource guide, to check out our meeting calendar, to see a schedule of events within the community, things like that. That's really the goal here. So I'm really excited to start using this. I really hope that everybody is as well. And I think that there are some good opportunities for us. I'm getting ready to order stickers for people to put in their windows and all kinds of stuff. So be on the lookout. And if you have any ideas, please share them.
Yeah, seriously, if you have ideas of things that you've seen that has drawn your attention, that no matter if it's a race or I don't know what it is, right? I mean, different things draw people's attention nowadays. So please share it and send it to us.
So question.
Yeah.
At least looking at it online, within like it's like the banner at the top, the letterhead, I don't know what you want to call it. it had the website and it looked a little blurry.
Yeah, we're gonna definitely, we're gonna be clean, we're gonna be sharpening up everything. But we wanted to make sure everybody was aware. We're gonna have I didn't tell you, I have a USF student through Freeman that can help with tightening up.
Oh, I actually did that already.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So the reason is because I was using so I did a logo generator thing that I worked in, and so the image online right now was we were having a credit card issue. It kept declining the website. So the image online is the free version, but the new one, I got the vector image. We have that clean version. So future versions of this logo and the version that we'll share with everybody will be able to not be blurry. You'll be able to resize it and use it wherever you want, however you need. That's the beauty of the vector image. I don't really understand that, to be totally honest. It's above my head, but apparently that means that it's resizable and can be used in pretty much any context.
Thanks.
Yes, ma'am.
Just a question about the letterhead. So will there be a portion of it maybe at the bottom, once the website and everything is up, that'll have address,
Yes.
website and social media? Okay.
Yep. So
And funders, yeah, absolutely. It'll follow all the traditional guides that we need to. Yeah.
So this is what it looks like at the bottom right now. It's not very complete right now, but yeah, great questions.
And do you anticipate, like, did you? Yes. I'm sorry. Like, obviously you'll have a list of member organizations of the COC and link to their member organization pages.
Oh, yeah, on the website?
Yes.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
And maybe, eventually we could ask for 2 or 3 sentences from member leaders,
so
CEOs, presidents, or whatever, that the value of being a COC member. And then, a page on resources. Is that kind of?
Oh yeah, we're gonna have a full website of not only resource, but the resource guide, links to partner agency, an event section. Yeah, we'll be definitely looking at and working with our info tech team who manages all of our technology.
And things like this page here, this will move over to that COC, page. So absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, just on the spirit of marketing, you guys usually come out to the Jingle Bell Run. This year it's on Friday, December 8th. So I don't know what logos, what you have already made, but you're of course invited, and
I'm ready to run.
So it's an opportunity, like you said,
Do a lot of
point time,
yeah.
get people signed up, and just if you have the right logos made already, I don't know if you will, but to kind of put that out there.
I can order fast signs.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Friday, December 8th.
Got it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And just one thing, I realized that in my bag, like we had a trifold that we created at the Housing Authority. This is about real estate development, but we also have one for our social services department and stuff. I don't know if when you're thinking about the collateral, like these like handy little trifolds that can kind of give someone one-stop shop, if you will, about what the resources, not all of them, but what do we do, who we serve, and that kind of thing, so that as members, we, again, if someone says, I actually have a handy little pamphlet here that I can, I just found that to be helpful when we were talking and meeting with folks.
Yeah, awesome. Who we are, what we do, why you should join us.
Well, right. And I don't know if you have different, there's costs associated with some, but I'm just saying, like, there could be one focused on why you should join, why you should support, why you should seek services, depending on who your target audience may be.
Love it. Thank you.
And if you care and you can't join and participate this way, you can participate financially.
Absolutely. Okay. Very much for the feedback.
Do you have any timeline goals on when you're thinking that would be, starting to be populated, that website, like by the end of January, or?
Yeah, well, we'll have the website going after the first of the year, and then it'll start getting populated as we are able to put the information in. But we just have a new project management software, so this is going to be the first project that we put through that, so we'll have the ability to track where we are with it.
What platform did you go with?
What is it? can you,
I think that happened. Sorry.
let me ask Cindy Kazowicz, because she's on Teams, I can ask her, but it's actually really cool. It's an online platform. We're using it because one of the things, we've looked at lots of gaps this year, and having a project management software especially could help with NoFo and these types of activities. So I'm going to send Team Hood. Yeah.
Tony just messaged me.
Thank you, Tony. But it's very cost effective. And it's a really, really cool little system, and we're using it right now for things like this. So this is going to be one, and it's really neat. It's kind of like a Microsoft project, but it allows really nice collaboration in a safe environment.
Fantastic. All right, anything more on marketing or? Hey, Lariana, we were just discussing things we'd like to see on the COC website and, member organizations, and maybe a couple sentences from leads of member organizations about the importance of the COC and stuff like that. We've got a timeline of after the first of the year to have it more robustly going. Okay.
Or is there a request then that you ask?
Yeah, I mean, if you guys, we'll send a formal request, but we are going to request, links to your, obviously we can pull the links, but information that you would, what?
We already linked to all of your websites on our website for what it's worth.
Yeah, so, what we'll really be looking for is what you want us to put on the COC website for your organizations. But there will be a formal request that will go out about that.
Okay.
Makes sense. Okay. So we'll move on to the COC elections that are upcoming in January. So the elections for the COC's board of directors will take place on Friday, January 5th. Occurring during a specially scheduled membership meeting that morning. So you should have it on your calendar. So it's Friday, January 5th. Do we have is there a time on there? Do you know?
It's going to be before the board meeting. I am still, because it's going to be such a large meeting, time, location, and everything will be shared.
To be determined. Yeah. Okay, that's January 5th. And it'll be before noon. It's a morning meeting.
Yes,
we're anticipating. Okay.
So may I ask a question about this? Is we typically, the first week of January, we typically move that meeting to the second week because of kids out of school and holidays and stuff like that. Is there any concern? Because I'm going to tell you, there's a fairly decent chance I may not be in the country on the 5th. And I just don't know if we're going to be able to get a quorum on the 5th.
Yeah, we had a conversation during executive committee about that. And so executive committee had selected that date.
Okay,
well, if I remember correctly about that discussion, this piece didn't come up in the discussion. It was really about moving it from December because we were trying to back it up. I don't think that there was any.
No, we did talk about the concern of having it
on the 5th.
Yes, we did. I brought it up. Yeah. Because I was concerned that people are coming back that week from being on break.
Right. I mean, historically, we've had this problem before, and we always move that first one to the second week. And do you see you're not going to be here either?
Yeah, no, I'm going to be across the country.
I just think we're going to have a problem getting quorum to do elections.
Well, yeah, do kids come back to school? So, New Year's Day is a Monday.
They don't come back. They don't come back to school to the 8th or 9th, is my guess.
Yeah, I would bet.
I have that date. If you give me just a second, I can pull it up. My local schedules. January 8th, Pinellas County schools were down.
Okay.
I mean, let's talk about it, right? Like,
well, I mean, every person who was present at that meeting is sitting in this room. So
yeah, right. We had that discussion, but I don't think that is a irrevocable decision, right? If everybody on the board thinks we should move it to the 12th, then, or then.
I just think that we're gonna have trouble with quorum, and I can
And it's
tell
a
you
vote,
most
right?
likely won't be here. So.
Right.
Well, what do you think? Do you want to move it to the 12th?
Motion to move it to the 12th.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Friday the 12th, in the morning, we're in the book, right?
Yep.
Okay. The board will then hold its regularly scheduled meeting immediately following that membership meeting. So there are several seats available for election or re-election this year. So please take some time to consider your role on the board and share this information with others. We have spoken several times about the importance of bringing new voices to the table, and this is the opportunity. As you know, the board members serve 2-year terms with a maximum of 6 consecutive years or 3 terms. If this is your sixth year on the board, you need to be prepared to step back from the board, not the COC, for at least 1 year. And so these are the seats that are open for election or re-election this year. At large is Trinia Cox, and she is eligible for re-election. We have an open at-large seat. Faith-based is Sam Picard, and you're open to be re-elected. Very good. Housing Authority, Danielle, all good. Eligible for re-election. Transportation or Workforce Development, Ross, open for re-election. Fantastic. Formerly homeless, Tawny Castle is not eligible for re-election. Did you want to?
Yeah, so HUD puts very specific guidelines on COC. This is not anything to do with us. This is HUD guidelines saying that to serve as the formerly homeless seat on a COC board, you must be formerly homeless within the past 7 years. So this is nothing to do with us.
Okay.
But I'm looking, I see that on one box it says she's eligible, and the other one it says she's ineligible. So which is it?
Is it eligible?
She's ineligible, and I apologize if that was missed on one box.
And then GW is.
He's resigned.
Right.
Yeah, he has resigned. Yes.
So we have 2 homeless or formerly homeless seats open, and I think we have some candidates. Have you reached out to a number of them?
Do you want to chat about the lived experience meeting last night?
Yeah, actually, so we and we'll talk about lived experience later in this meeting, but we actually did our lived experience meeting last night, and I'm really happy to say that I think that there are 2 members who have already kind of volunteered for leadership roles. They are both actually local to the St. Pete area. And one of them even volunteered to be secretary of the Lived Experience Advisory Committee. And I know that y'all know how exciting that is. So I am happy to say that there are folks that are stepping up into those leadership positions. There are a couple of folks who may also be open to it that we're still talking to. So it seems like there are folks who are ready and willing to step into that role. And excited. I'm happy about that. I really am.
Thank you for working hard on that. That's good. I think that there's good energy with those groups.
Did we have an opportunity to speak to Tawny?
Yeah, that's what
Have we spoken to Tawny?
I have some email to request a call.
Okay.
I just texted her to tell her how jealous I was.
Because it just this, when I read it in the packet prior to the meeting, I thought that it was new information that she didn't qualify. And I just remember at the last meeting, you know, she had some feedback on some things, and I just didn't want the 2 things to get in any way.
There, no way. This is.
All kidding
I
aside,
know that.
Yeah.
Tawny, if anyone knows Tawny's story, it's insane, and she wrote a book about it.
Yeah.
It's really, she's phenomenal.
Yes.
I don't think she's been on the board that long, has she?
So
She's ineligible because of the 7 years is what you're saying.
Yes.
Oh,
It's already been out there.
Hold that seat.
Right, but she is still eligible to be in an open seat, so that's the clarifying,
Yes.
and that's the difference,
She
so.
would be eligible for at-large.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yes, so
Yeah.
eligible for out-large, but just for that particular
Okay.
seat, she is not eligible,
Okay.
that's.
Cause
Alright, well, I
I
think we need to
agree
make
with
that-
April, we gained
Yeah,
something out of it on the
Yes.
We
board.
need to make that
So
clear.
is this a new HUD guideline or just something we've missed?
It is not a new HUD guideline. HUD clarifies for any of those in the lived experience in a formerly homeless seat to be cited 7 years.
Okay.
Is that a suggestion or is that?
So, but it's within it clearly states within the NOFO, it states in multiple, I can see what regulation it's connected to.
I mean, the question is how did we miss it? And then how did we discover it? And then,
What is
And how do we
What
share it
what
with-
kind of information are we providing to HUD on,
Yeah.
on their personal life? And it's-
We're not providing anything to anybody. We're not providing anything about board members to HUD.
So we have to certify that we have board seat that's filled with somebody
Correct.
who's been
Who-
homeless within the past 7 years.
Who fits the HUD guidelines of what formerly homeless? Yes.
Okay. Well, good. As long as we communicate that with Tani, and she has had great attendance. and
Absolutely,
participation.
absolutely.
So if she wants to move into the at-large seat, then that would be
Yes.
fantastic. If that's be a shift. And as we have this more lived experience committee that's
Who will then
building,
start having
and
members join other
it would be great.
committees, correct?
Great. All right, so business, we need a representative from business. Anyone have any thoughts or?
what is Christopher, so he's ineligible? Why is he eligible?
He hasn't been at a meeting all year.
Okay, so it's his attendance.
Yes.
That has, okay.
What do we think? Anybody have any ideas?
I mean, I think, realistically, the timeline is the membership open seats or application, sorry, opens today, right? After this meeting.
Yes.
And I would just say we need to push this out to everybody and anybody and see what kind of response we get. We've tried to target people in the past, and what I found is that we rely on X person to reach out to Y person, and all our eggs are necessarily in that basket. I think we all, as a board, just need to push it out to our various spheres of influence and see what we get. And then we can make the decision if that person or people is appropriate, if and when they apply.
I think that logic makes sense, Sean. I think, I wonder about thinking about how you represent the business community on a board like this. Chris Steinacher was on the board for a while, and I feel like from the St. Pete Chamber, it's like the seat of having a broader view of business and having an understanding of the issues. I think if I were going to pick somebody to target, I might.
Well, the other thing I was thinking was, can we waive a membership fee or reduce a membership fee as an incentive for someone to serve on the board with a business? And so I'm thinking about, so there's the gentleman, Dan McDonald, who is the former homeless specialist with Tampa Police, who worked 20-some years in Tampa with homelessness. And he lives in Clearwater, and he's a national speaker on homelessness and combating it and working for solutions. He owns his own photography business, so he's got a business. He lives in Pinellas County and he's got experience. So I like your idea about a chamber for a bigger view that way. But I'm wondering, he mentioned to me, about the fee to join as a business. What is it, like $500 or something?
Yeah, it's $500.
Yeah.
I think we could reach, I appreciate that. I kind of feel like the business representative should be. Like, I like that idea, maybe not necessarily Steinacher, but you know, from a chamber, because they represent businesses.
Yeah.
Right, and that might be a broader perspective. I think that's a great idea, Sam.
I mean, maybe Amplify, I know Amplify always tries to get their profile up a little bit, and we've talked a bunch of times about being St. Pete heavy, so that certainly would be.
I'll reach out to Amplify.
Cool.
Any other ideas?
I feel like that business seat's so important, but it's always so hard. Like, I feel like a lot of times we get somebody who does real estate and then they get housing experience, and that's valuable. But they have 50 other irons in the fire, and this just historically never seems to rise to the top 15 of their priority list. So I don't feel like they've had anybody in that background who's stuck around much.
I think North County would be great with Amplify. We need more voices from North County. Okay. Healthcare, EMS, fire.
Healthcare, we've been working with our lovely partner in the back who has agreed to put an application for membership and board.
If y'all have not met Miss Camille Henry from HCA Northside Hospital back here, please introduce yourself after the meeting.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity.
We're thrilled that you're here to join us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good. A veteran or veteran organization.
We're working with a couple of veteran organizations with our veteran system manager to identify someone that would be we have a business leader who has a veteran specific business actually who is interested.
We just had a chair of veteran business organization present to the council last week, got recognized for veteran small business week or something like that. So, all right, if you've got that.
Yeah, we're working on a what?
That could be a 2-for-1.
I know.
A business thing, right? There you go.
I could reach out. But you're okay. You've got.
Yeah, we're good with the veterans group. We're good with the veterans.
Really? Yeah. Okay, good. And then a non-entitlement community.
I can scroll down so y'all can see what the entitlement.
I just see one, but
I mean, in general. Sorry for this board.
We're curious, what does a non-entitlement community mean?
Great question.
So there are a few communities up here in the appointed seats, which is the new list that's up front. These appointed seats, we hold a vote of confidence for these each year. These are not elected seats. And so it would be sorry, I can't speak today. Not one of these communities is what I'm trying to say. Yes.
It's like a town that's below a certain threshold.
Yeah.
So they don't get CDBG funding or whatever.
Yeah.
Yes, Madeira Beach.
So Tarpon, but you've got Tarpon up here, but they're not entitled.
So
they're an appointed seat.
They're an appointed seat.
And that's in the charter, right? And that's the vestige of our prior not MOU, but whatever word I'm looking for, whatever that document sunset it was.
Sunshine.
So that's just maybe something to look at for 2024 is because that list right there of the appointed seats from the municipalities and the cities and the constitutional officers is from prior COC interlocal agreement. That's a word. Was from the interlocal agreement that all the parties had signed on to. That is sunsetted, and we've struggled with attendance and things like that. It's just something we may want to take a look at down the road to give us more flexibility as well, instead of having specific for maybe some of those cities that we can open it up just to 2024.
What do you mean like we can open it, like, you think we should remove some, what are you thinking?
Well, so if you have, say you have, the non-entitlement communities all clamoring to be on this board, the beaches communities, right? And Mary Beth is down there.
But they're not. I mean, okay, but there, go ahead. But if we do, sorry,
Do.
I wish we did.
It just, it provides more flexibility. You have seats in Pinellas Park, right? When was the last time Pinellas Park was here? Harpin?
No.
We historically had.
He was here once or twice.
We've historically, we've had trouble just engaging with, the same engaging with. You know, and then you go down to, you know, you can look at the public defenders and the sheriff's office and that kind of stuff. Those seats have been held for those individuals, those entities. Saying, hey, welcome, come in.
Yes, we need your voice here.
We need your voice here. You have a appointed seat on this board, just send somebody. School board, right? School board's a good one right now. What I'm saying is, what would give us more flexibility is if we kept those same seats, but a lot more flexibility, just not specified necessarily for that specific entity.
Okay, okay.
And I'm not saying let's do that. I'm just saying it's an idea on the table because we're holding board positions, which then impact quorum and all this other stuff.
Yeah, why couldn't we have 6 seats or whatever?
That's
seats,
right.
And it could include.
We may want to relook at our priority of who we want to have dedicated seats on the board. I guess that's really where I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Like, who do we really, as a continuum, really need to have dedicated seats? Like, who's engaged or needs to be engaged with this mission? I guess that's probably where I'm more going.
Got it. I think that's a worthy discussion. Yeah.
So after the election and the board meeting in January, there will be a vote of confidence held for these seats. And then a few others have, you know, talked about joining, for instance, Sarah Madden from the Public Defender's Office on Sarah Molo's behalf. So we'll hold that vote of confidence during the membership meeting, or not during the membership meeting, after the membership meeting during the board meeting.
Can we aim to have somebody from the school board on named? I mean, that is a gaping hole, a gaping, unacceptable hole.
So we have also been in contact with the HEAT team about them potentially taking
somebody
this role on.
Yeah. What does HEAT stand for?
I'm
not familiar, but I know that they're not. They were here.
Yeah,
You know.
something transition.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, give me a minute and I'm going to interrupt discussion in just like 1 minute and I'm going to yell it.
But I mean, I really think that's a goal. By that election, we need to have a names there, whatever team or a person. You know, and candidly, maybe it's, you know, maybe the HEAT team has a lot more knowledge than a school board, elected school board member.
Yeah,
so whoever's going to be there, we need somebody from the school at these meetings. It is crucial.
And they're going to conference. I mean, we're spending time with the HEAT team in other areas. And we're looking at, you know, one of the conversations I've had with Erica with the HEAT team, who's stepping into Dr. Cantrell's role, is how can we take what we've been getting from the school district in regards to the number of homeless students to dissect that information a little bit better, to really look at recommendations we get from Pitt to really find some strategies for it. And they really want to be more involved, and they're, you know, boots on the ground too, and also dealing with the families, dealing with the schools.
Hey, don't we occasionally run into a problem with this because it needs to be someone who can make decisions for an agency, right? I mean, that would be the concern, like,
About not having a school board member.
if we don't have like. a school board
Can you hear me
member,
okay?
You know, someone having to go through a chain to make decisions like that was always a challenge. At least for this board, not necessarily providers or funders council.
I think, you know, and I think that's more for providers, in my opinion, that impacts for what the decisions we make. I think we would like to have the council member, the board member, so they could bring it back, because they're not the ultimate decider for their entity anyways. But we want that level of, you know, insight and discussion. I think for providers, it really matters to have the decision makers, because we're making policy decisions or that are really going to impact day-to-day operations or whatever funding kind of thing. I think, so in my opinion, we're never going to get the decision maker from any of these entities, because nobody's the decision maker. Even if we had a mayor here, they could only make so much decisions. So I think it's less important, in my opinion, for those entities than it is for providers to have that decision maker at the table, because, you know, we need their input, and they're going to be most impacted by kind of the policies or funding or whatever the case may be. I just don't know if we're ever going to be in a place like that. And with the school board, we just need somebody here.
Yes, we need somebody.
So I would recommend, when I think about accountability, you're absolutely right, Shauna, and you're right, Michael, about having decision makers, but there's really, other than the providers, there's no, even providers, if they have boards, sometimes, you know, they're still not decision makers, so everybody is still in that same position. But as far as like the school board is concerned, we're gonna have to do our own advocacy. You know, when we're talking about marketing, do we not have to go to a school board meeting representing COC and speak during open forum? I know it's effective for us. When we have people come to the podium and say, we are the COC, this is what we provide, and we would love to have you join us. So then you have everyone else sitting around that dais or whoever is in that boardroom saying, well, why aren't we, you know, participating in that? Well, why aren't we
able to be heard? Hello?
I can see that being effective at a school board meeting, because the other school board members are going to want to say, well, hey, why are we participating in this? And especially if in your 3 minutes, you provide an example of why they are needed and how many children are impacted with homelessness. They should already know that though. Yeah. But to hear it in open forum and to hear it recorded.
Hello?
And to be able to say, well, we came to you with, and the same thing for county commissions. I know a commissioner.
Can Zoom be heard? Hello?
Didn't miss a meetings I attended. So I don't know if they even know that the commission is not being represented. So sometimes we're just gonna have to go to open forum, and we're just gonna have to say, and then once you get that champion, say, hey, can I need, you know, get on your agenda to then now make a formal presentation, then that's when you give additional information. So it's good to speak about who we need and target one person, but it's gonna be even more impactful, and this is just Deborah speaking, more impactful to go to that organization and say, hey, we miss you. This is what we're trying to do. You know, and we can speak during open forum. I can join you in some of those, you know, we can go to county commission and school boards and just say, this is what we're doing, but we haven't in a nice way.
Well, and some of the email communication I've had with them, they've said they've had some communication struggles about information that on the board. But anyway, yeah, right, exactly. Okay, fantastic.
Oh, and for what it's worth, Sarah Madden online says that she spoke with school board member Laura Hine recently about the COC as well.
Fantastic. Okay, so after the election, the board will hold a vote of confidence for those appointed seats, which include the Providers Council Chair, Providers Council Service Experts, City of Largo, City of St. Pete, JWB, Pinellas County. Who is our rep on the Board of County Commissioners?
Representative Peters.
Okay,
which will probably be changing by next year.
okay. At the calendar year, you think?
Yeah, they're gonna, I think she's vice chair right now.
Oh, so she's gonna go.
Most likely she's.
Yeah,
gonna be
I can actually speak to that. I'm her aide.
The OCC
Okay.
meeting, so 2024, they'll be most likely reappointing somebody.
At the beginning of the campaign.
Yeah, if you can hear me, my name is Nick Rossetti, and
What are
I'm
we
her.
going to do about the funders council chair?
We are going to, we have our next funders council meeting. I had conversations yesterday with Karen Yakum of the county. Quite a few people have asked her to take the seat. She is not able to do so at the time. At the last Funders Providers Council joint meeting, there was a request that went to municipality staff to meet with their legal teams to determine the legality of a staff member serving in a committee in regards to one that they would have an elected member on the same committee with voting. Karen had not heard back from the county on that as of yet. She actually recommended the lady Janine with JWB. And so we will need to, if there is not somebody nominated from the nomination process, we will need to look to appoint someone. And so we will need to have a conversation about potential funders that could come to be part, because there are funders who are interested who maybe aren't at the table, but need to be involved, like Helios and others that are interested in funding programs, but haven't traditionally been involved.
Have you reached out to foundation for help?
Yeah, I have lunch with the CEO in a couple of weeks. I don't remember the exact date.
And then the appointment would just have to be made right before the election, and then we vote to confirm an appointment, or is it just whenever we want to? If we don't have somebody to step up at that election.
If we don't have somebody to step up, we could appoint at any time. Yes.
Okay. So prior to January's meeting, COC members will receive a list of open board seats, nominees, and the candidate's nomination form and resume. During the meeting, nominees will be presented individually, each having a few minutes to speak or have someone speak on their behalf. Candidates will then be voted upon individually by seat, so not a slate, even though we generally don't have multiple people vying for seats. Okay. So for instance, if there are 3 nominees for the at-large seat, the 3 nominees will be presented and given an opportunity to speak. COC members will then cast their vote for the at-large seat. How do you anticipate voting? Is it just by hand?
We could do either. We haven't determined the method, but we could do, depending on how many people are actually in the room, we could do a voice of blind.
It's usually
voice or blind, whichever is more appropriate.
So floor nominations will not be accepted this year, nor will nominations be presented in a slate. So to be eligible to serve on the board or vote in the election, you must renew your COC membership between last January and December 22nd of this year.
December 22nd will change. It's 2 weeks before the election. So December 29th. Yeah, December 29th is now the new date.
If you have not done so, please do so immediately using the links on the screen. And please note that the valid COC membership is also required to serve on committees and continue your HMS access. And you can nominate yourself or someone else for a seat on the board. Any questions on upcoming elections on January? What did we say now? 12th. On January 12th. Any questions from anyone online?
Only questions that I've been able to answer quickly and easily.
We're all good.
Yep, we're all good. Everybody's
fantastic. Thank you. All right. So we'll move on to the Lived Experience Advisory Committee update.
Yes, so we actually have, very proudly, happily have our Lived Experience Advisory Council Charter. Word review and vote. And we have reviewed this charter to ensure that it does crosswalk appropriately to the main COC charter as it stands. I know that there will be some review of the COC charter in the upcoming year. And I was gonna actually ask Victoria to talk a little bit about how this came about through the committee work. And it has been approved by the Lived Experience Advisory Committee to bring forth to you all.
Yeah, so the Lived Experience Committee, it is really, the meetings are getting really, really good. It started off, Councilmember Beckman can tell you, these meetings started off huge. We have had 40, 60 plus people at these meetings, which is fantastic. And we are now getting core engagement. So last night we had 9 people, which is a real committee. And the engagement is fantastic. Folks are really excited, and they're ready to hold y'all's feet to the fire. You should be prepared. So the charter was created through a series of meetings. We talked about goals. We talked about, you know, our values. But when I say ours, I mean the committees. This is not about me. But we talked about values. We talked about goals. We talked about purpose. We made a mission statement. And so over the course of several meetings, this was created, and Carly shared it with them in October, and was able to get this finalized. And so we are very excited to share this charter with you. Sorry to interrupt y'all. So we had quorum to approve this just a second ago. We no longer have quorum to approve this.
Did she go to the bathroom?
Yeah, I'm gonna go Chase real quick.
No, Lariana had to leave.
Oh,
She had to leave.
Yeah.
Okay.
There are, I wonder if, I mean, in terms of just providing feedback to the group, since we can't take action. I think language is important in this charter. And I just wonder if they would consider, instead of referring to the homeless, referring to people who are living homeless. I think when we refer to people who are living homeless, as the homeless, that we lose sight of that they are not just people who live homeless. They're like people with all kinds of other things to bring to the table. So I just wonder if they would consider a language change. I do think that the goals are entirely too many to achieve any of them. Like they should probably narrow this list down to, you know, three to 5 or something. But the other thing is, you know, what was just said a minute ago, they're ready to hold you accountable. Again, that's the thing that I struggle with so much, holding funders and providers accountable to their efforts to end homelessness is so much easier when people with lived experience are a part of those groups, as opposed to standing on the sideline trying to hold somebody accountable. I just go back to believing that individuals who have lived homeless, who have experience in these categories, to be a part of everything we are doing, as opposed to some separate thing. But my feedback would be, I wonder if they would consider some slight word edits or word changes, and I think these goals need to be narrowed down.
Thank you. And just so everybody knows, joining other committees and being present at these meetings, I extended an invitation to this meeting to everybody who was present last night. So that is a very, very valid point that you are making, April, and it's a valid point that's been made in a lot of meetings. So it is something that we are working on, trying to encourage folks to attend the other COC meetings and to participate in those meetings, so that lived experience does not operate just in a silo, so that it is a collaborative group, and so that there is representation on all the board. We are really pushing that nothing about you without you idea.
None of them are here.
None of them are here, and it's not listed here, right? Like, so maybe that would be a suggestion. They could maybe put a sentence about that.
We've set up a silent system.
It is set.
You set it up
We
that way.
potentially set it up as a silent system.
Well, but if she extended an invite and we have bus passes, I mean, what, I know.
And then they have that meeting, and they have this
Yeah.
meeting, and they have that meeting, and, you know, that's a lot. And then there's the conversations that we're having here, that's being had at Funders Council. They're not gonna be privy to those conversations, and they're gonna be trying to solve things over here without
knowing the reality of
system,
these goals.
system issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is really quite a contradiction, right? I mean, because all these things sound good, but be here. You know, I don't know why it feels like, you know, it's kind of some of the smaller programs, they show up for meetings every once in a while and then want to have a voice. And they should have a voice, but you need to be at every meeting or regularly. And I'm not trying to criticize anyone. I'm glad that that group has momentum. And again, like we talked about with Tawny earlier, I mean, her voice lends so much from her experience for sure. And but hold us accountable. Well,
hold us accountable here.
Yeah.
Well,
like,
were they
let's
offered
have
a-
these conversations right now.
Yeah, a stipend? Were they offered? Are they offered?
Everybody gets a stipend.
Absolutely.
So everybody at yesterday's meeting got a $25 gift card as a stipend, 2 bus passes, and some other resources.
Are they off? Would they be offered a stipend for today's meeting?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We have gift cards in my bag just in case.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about holding meetings where homeless people
who are living homeless.
Yeah, people, I'm sorry. People who are living.
So one of the things that was suggested during yesterday's meeting was collaborative committee meetings. You know, because they don't want to operate in a silo. And so, you know, there is a real push within the group to ensure collaboration within the COC. That's kind of one of their main things that keeps coming up is collaboration. So yeah.
So since we can't vote on it, maybe you can take that back, that if collaboration, it probably needs to be listed somewhere in the list. Because it's absent from the list, of all the things that they have in goals. Yeah.
Well, and you've got an overview. You've got people experiencing homelessness up there. And so if you could ask them if they're okay with changing that phrasing to be consistent throughout it. But yeah, I mean, I'm okay with goals and people holding our feet to the fire, but again, you know, this kind of let's prioritize and as April said, narrow, and then, you know, can hold us accountable to something that's.
But it's not establishing the spirit of what we've been trying to accomplish, which is that we are all in this together as a team. If you think about it, we brought providers and funders councils together because we're the same issue there. But providers don't, you know, funders and providers, you know, now, and so we said, we have to approach this together because it isn't my problem and your problem, it is our problem. And they are a critical part of the solutions for this problem. So the language needs to reflect our collaborative team effort to solve this together, and that their experiences being vital to those solutions.
I can't overemphasize what you just said, Kevin, because we had that meeting with the mayor the other day and brought it up about, you know, funding ending and the city's being prepared. Because why? Because we've been emphasizing this at those provider funder council meetings about being prepared for 2024. Anne-Marie, you brought it up, and having someone like Anne-Marie's voice as part of this as we move forward is so crucial, because that, I think that it's becoming much more aware to members of city councils, to the mayor, to different people who make those kinds of funding decisions, because we've done that collaborative. And I think that that's really one of the, having done this a lot longer than I want to try to figure out, I think that doing that was so crucial, because we all knew what we were talking about at that last Providers Funders Council meeting, and we all understood the importance of us having the meeting in that month before budget processes start. I think those things are crucial, so that collaboration can be effective if we bring it. And I just think that that was a great example that Kevin brought or said, because how do we actually make progress?
It should be set up. It should be set up like providers and funders council, right? So those meetings still happen. So there's a lot of work to be done in each of those entities. And then you've got 4 members of the providers council, well, 3 and then the chair, that sit here at this meeting. Just like you have the funders come here, and it should be the same with this committee. They have their meeting, and then they have their representatives that are here as the representatives and voices.
Yeah,
and that is definitely the goal.
Yeah, so like that would be the 2 seats would come from that committee. And I was hearing this conversation, trying to figure out how do we not, because we've had this conversation a lot at the executive level, like how do we get participation at every committee meeting, but realistically, the way it's probably needs to function and gonna function is just like funders and providers, where it's a committee and then they sit on the representatives sit on it, and things flow through that committee for input and feedback. Unfortunately, it is siloed, and to a certain extent, right now it's very siloed, but hopefully it'll be more integrated. Because the alternative is just to have one random, I won't say random, but one person, and then you have just disparate information all over the place, and you have one representative on funders.
Why would you have a person sitting on this board that is your lived experience person that isn't a part of that
yeah,
group?
for sure.
That makes no sense.
Yeah. Well, that group is new, so.
Right, but I'm just saying,
yeah.
before when we were talking earlier about seats, we didn't talk about that group being.
I did actually mention 2 people from that group.
Right, because I think to Sean's good, that is that some of us are providers and we're on this board representing providers. Some of us are funders and we're on this board representing funders. If that is the committee for lived experience, then they need to be, it shouldn't be you bringing to us collectively what happened at a great meeting with a lot of attendance. It should be them.
Yeah. Agreed. And that is the goal. I do think that we need to offer a little bit of grace to the fact that this is our 6th meeting. And it's not an established formal committee yet. So there isn't a chair yet who is responsible for being here. There will be eventually. And I think that we maybe need to have a conversation in this room right now about, do we need to update the charter to say things like the chair needs to attend board meetings?
Yes.
So we can add that into the charter. There is collaboration mentioned somewhere in that charter. I know Danielle found it, but do we need to make that more? Do we need to make that more forward, or where you're reading it? Do you think that it's
Let's hear from Danielle.
So it says constructively interact with COC staff and through them, collaborate with resource providers to implement actionable suggestions. This is under goals, and then collaborate to devise real solutions for homelessness. So I think that perhaps, again, if we want to talk about maybe clarifying what that looks like, setting what the expectation is of a chair or vice chair of the committee, then that's fine. But just to correct the record, it is mentioned in the charter that they, and I think maybe just fleshing that out, what that looks like, could be helpful.
Perfect.
So I got kind of more of a technical piece to this, which is if the chair has been formerly homeless 6 years ago, they're gonna get 1 term on that seat. So that's like just another, and that's the tail wagging the dog here, and it's not representative of what we're trying to accomplish as our own community here. But that's something to be considered. You may have an all-star, rock star, totally engaged chair of the Lived Experience Committee that we would love to have on this board, but they were formerly homeless 6.5 years ago, or whatever, or 10 years ago. Doesn't diminish their experience, in my opinion, but just want to bring that up. That we're going through a Watani right now, and we don't want to create again a system.
Does the lived experience charter have the same 7 years? They can't be a part of that unless they've been homeless for 7 years? Or is it just our board?
So it's to qualify as a lived experience member of the COC, you have to meet that HUD threshold. We do invite participation from folks who don't meet that threshold. There were folks at last night's meeting who don't quite meet that threshold, but have experienced homelessness. That is a super valuable experience. It just doesn't meet HUD threshold.
But you've got under membership, members must have experienced homelessness within the last 7 years. And then you've got membership is free for persons with lived experience within the last 7 years.
So folks without that 7-year experience are invited to participate
outside
in
of the 7 years can participate. Yeah.
But they aren't formally listed, or they're not a member, but they are an attendee participant.
So they wouldn't count towards quorum, they wouldn't get official votes, but absolutely come and have an impact. You know, Dennis is here at every sorry to single you out back there, but Dennis is here at every board meeting and you know, can have impact and takes that back to the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. And just like that, that's kind of the idea there.
And I just want to be clear, because I know I haven't had enough coffee yet. The 7-year rule is a HUD guideline,
Yes,
so we have no flexibility to say.
I would say we have a decision we can make. I mean, that's what I would say.
Right, because we have 2 positions. We're not required by HUD to have 2 positions.
Correct.
We're required to have 1.
Correct.
So maybe one of those positions that meets this
7-year thing.
7-year rule, and the other one does not necessarily have any attachment to that.
Right. There's 6 positions here that doesn't indicate that they were formerly homeless. Just says a person living with a physical disability. Does it mean they were formerly homeless?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, we might want to clarify that. Okay. Reviewing this, I
missed it, right?
Well, but they've got members must have experienced homelessness, and then positions with lived experience should include at a minimum. So I think that's the first determinant is within the last 7 years.
I like that.
Boy,
I like the idea of the only one. We're only required to have 1 seat, so that means the other seat could be just like we were talking about.
Yeah. Or youth aging out of foster care. That was, you know, now is in mid-career or whatever. Like, it's frustrating.
So the question is, legally, are we able to have the lived experience committee not have to have all of its members comply with the HUD rule? Because we're simply creating.
I would say yes, right? All the HUD rule only applies to the 1 member on the.
The only reason why what the impact is of doing this or not doing this, nothing to do with legality or whatever. It has to do with our NOFO submission and our funding, you know, which is big, but the question then becomes, what kind of impact does that have? And is that impact,
and I think
is that pain of not following it to the T greater than what we're trying to accomplish as a COC and as a community? That's like the question I have.
So I look at that 2 ways. One is the mission, and to me, I don't think that's legally binding because we're trying to be impactful. And 2 is trying to meet the requirements of the NOFO. At least if we meet minimal requirements, I think we should be fine. I don't think the essence of the committee should be driven by legalities. Right. I think it should be driven by need, desire, and what our deliverables outcomes are going to be. So if we can extend the committee to those that were once homeless but now middle-aged doing fantastic, we still have that perspective from that person. Does it meet our HUD requirements? No, but who's to say that we shouldn't welcome that perspective into the committee? That's just me listening and jumping in. But those are 2 different things to me: what our mission is and what the HUD requirements are.
And this is something we may want to actually take back to the lived experience committee to talk to them about it too. You know, there's like you said, the legal of the HUD rule, but then there's the other and maybe get their guidance on their inclusivity.
Well, and maybe our HUD rep can tell us. Can we have a LEAP committee that has loose membership requirements as far as when and how long you've experienced homelessness? And then hopefully there's a lot of leeway there for the lived experience committee, but then to serve on the board within.
That's a different, that's where it gets with the role, correct.
That's fine, and we get points or we get credit for having both.
Absolutely.
Then I think, yeah, I would hope maybe
We've
the committee can loosen that up.
narrowed our stuff too much.
Yeah, yeah. Time goes so fast and it takes so long for people, you know.
I just want to commend the HLA for your work in pulling these together. I actually think, you know, one person's silo is another safe place for people with a common, sometimes marginalized experience to get together and feel comfortable sharing and growing in different ways. And I think that just like with DEI, you don't reach full inclusion overnight. And that, you know, they used to say when we were working diversity, you know, if we're completely successful, then one day we're gonna throw ourselves out of business. So if this committee is successful, then one day we won't need to have this committee, because on all of our committees of the COC, we're gonna have many members who have those experiences and won't have to have a separate committee. But we need to have a place to start and to have people feel comfortable and to help grow that future leadership. So thank you.
Yeah. And really, from our first meeting, what was it, in May or something, the first experience, May or June, you made phenomenal strides.
Yeah. Thank you.
And that was well said, Ross. And my comments earlier were certainly not against having a safe place for people to go. I just want to make sure that they don't think that that's their only place to do their advocacy and work, that they are also, that this is a safe place as well. Because I do think that they should be able to have that place to do their work and have their conversations. I just want them also to be here, and so we can get to know and hear their stories directly. Because I think hearing their voice helps us as leaders, and them hearing our passion to help work with them, helps them with some of the issues there.
Yeah.
And I think the suggestion to have one person, one member of that committee come to us each time and give us a little 5-minute report on how their committee went is a great way to start. It's a structured thing for them to do. You know, the secretary can give them notes for them to read. It's a safe thing for them to do, and they can participate to the extent that they're comfortable.
And under responsibilities in the charter, maybe that could be something that we spell out specifically. So, and that way everyone will know what the expectation is. If I want to run for chair or vice chair, and I understand that I will be required, will be expected that I'm going to attend the COC, you know, board meetings or larger meetings to represent that lived experience committee and share. So I think having that as part of the charter will set the ground rules from the beginning. No one will be caught off guard by what is expected.
Yeah, everybody should know time commitment.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
What are you signing up for? And I'm signing up to attend at least, you know, how many ever meetings a year, or, you know.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, you all have done a great job getting GW to the meetings. I don't think, you know, if you're talking about a big committee, maybe bus passes make sense, but if you're talking about getting a person regularly to this meeting or regularly to a committee meeting, I think Uber or something that's a little more.
And we have Uber.
That's PSDA. It's just when we're talking about a time commitment, if you're adding a 2-hour bus trip from different places where you don't necessarily have the same route.
And that's what we would do as GW often is.
No, that's my point. But
yeah.
I know that experience from GW's side, but then if we're talking about bus passes, that's not the same thing. So like it's going to take a higher level of support to get people to regularly participate in a way that feels good to them.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. And I think that this has all been really good feedback. I do think that there is a high level of excitement for being involved in meetings like this in the future. We are just working on building confidence and comfort right now, and you know, getting folks used to committee meetings because that's totally new, you know, and things like that. So I'm really excited for the future of this committee. The committee is really excited for the future of that committee. We are working on work plans and whatnot so that we will have actionable goals and can hold each other accountable. And I think that they will be a little bit disappointed that the charter didn't get passed today, but that's part of committee work and that's part of getting used to it. And, you know, we'll go ahead and we will make updates, we'll make changes, I will get feedback and we will move forward. And then, you know,
Hopefully we can bring somebody from the lived experience to help present the chart.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. See if maybe Eric or somebody can come help present the charter next time. And then we can work on electing our chair. And I'm honestly still not sure if we're going to do a vice chair or a co-chair. I think that a co-chair might be what happens for this committee, but we're gonna see how things go. So
just my 2 cents since we're here. I know we talked about it, and this is a perfect example of why we recommended that all action items be placed in the beginning of the agenda. For this very reason, and that we stick to the timelines as been specified.
Yeah, to be honest, there were 2 versions of the agenda, and I printed the wrong one. The one that was supposed to be used did have that at the front, but that's okay. That's my mistake, and I sincerely apologize for that.
All action items are not the first.
It's been a little bit.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for all that work. And it's positive going forward. Feel good about that. We'll move on to the COC benchmarks.
Do you want to do you want to present them since we don't have quorum to vote, or do you want us to?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've had a lot of discussion about the benchmarks. They're in there for your information. We had a DSP passes the data and system performance passes the benchmarks, or develops the benchmarks, then sends them to providers for comment, and then finally passes them, and then the board passes them, which we can't do today. The benchmarks are in your packet. I welcome any questions you have about them. I think one of the big thing that going back to NOFO a year and a half ago, not this most recent one, we just realized that the benchmarks on which we were scoring providers were not necessarily, and then using those for their applications during the NOFO process, weren't always the most helpful in terms of actually quantifying performance. For instance, we looked at income. We had benchmarks for income in programs where that wasn't a particularly relevant thing. So we spent a lot of time redeveloping those benchmarks. One of the areas, income still a factor in several of them, because of course income is necessary to be sustainable in housing placement for most of our projects. But we reframed how we did income to be a little more both flexible and meaningful, and de-emphasized it in programs where it didn't need to be emphasized. We broke out specifically, there was one of the questions from providers last time was around the 0 in, 0 out. Most of our benchmarks for income are framed in terms of a certain percentage of people will either retain or increase their income, either earned or unearned. And logically, retained means you have the same amount going in as going out of a project as going in. But when 0 is the number going in and 0 is the number going out, those people fall out of that count. And in some of our projects, something like 30% of people have no income when they come into the program and no income when they leave the program. So we wanted to look at that a little more specifically, which is why we have a specific 0 in, 0 out. And the idea is not necessarily, you know, for some of our programs, the people in that program are not likely to develop earned income, but through good case management, some of them might qualify for government assistance, for SNAP benefits, all of those things have its unearned income. So we want to emphasize, if they don't have an income coming in, we should be able to help them find one while they're in there. So
I have questions.
Yeah, please, Sean.
I see, and I'm just going through this again.
Yeah.
No longer DOC specific benchmarks. That seems like a big change. It seems like a lot of the benchmarks have been lowered for various interventions. 2 questions. One, why aren't we measuring, you know, our COC specific system benchmarks? And 2, and I'm assuming the answer is probably there's no issue, but is lowering these benchmarks or changing these benchmarks doing anything with the NOFO and those kind of benchmarks we have to
Yeah, it's a great question.
track there.
That's a great question, Sean. And we had that question from providers as well. In general, what HUD's looking for is that we're being data informed and that we're seeing and encouraging progress. So lowering those specific benchmarks, we don't anticipate that being a problem. In terms of the COC wide benchmarks, I think I honestly can't remember why we got rid of them. Tony, if you have an answer on that, that's great. If not, I wouldn't.
Tony and Cindy are both on the line as well.
To me, I mean, just to me, that's like why we're here as a board and kind of looking at the benchmarks and seeing which way they're tracking or trending or whatever. But
Tony is here and he's ready to talk. I'm just gonna make sure y'all can hear him.
Can you hear me?
Okay, you're good, Tony.
So I think the main reason that those were changed out is that they kind of go into the same things that we have.
Nobody can hear you. I can see you speaking.
well, we can get that later. We're not
Yeah,
gonna,
since we can't vote.
we can't vote on this anyway. So I'm gonna also just say, and I know the benchmarks are back up, but
That's funny. I could hear you, but they can't seem to hear me.
We can hear you now.
Oh, there, of course.
Hello.
Sorry for that.
Can anybody hear me?
Yeah, hear you now, Tony.
Okay, it's what I was going to say is that many of these benchmarks are already covered in the other sections. As you can see, stuff like FL 502 will have no more than 20% of adults who exited to permanent housing return. So all of the different sections already have a specific benchmark for those. So I think that's probably why we don't need the top system COC benchmarks, because they're already listed within the individual benchmarks for all of the different projects that we capture here.
First one is persons will have an average combined length of time homeless no more than 75 days. How is that going to be captured into one single metric? If there's no...
That's right. That is I mean, we could capture that in a specific COC metric as we were before we made these changes. So that, I believe that was an original benchmark from 2022 and from before. So it was being captured. I believe that was captured by the system performance measures, although I don't know for sure. I would have to get back to you to figure out exactly how that was being captured. But if you look at some of the specific program benchmarks, we have a length of time for several different projects. So I think that's why we went ahead and just removed the system-wide benchmarks and then started to look more at a project-specific benchmark. I don't know if that was specifically for NOFO, but it's not. It was removed. Yeah, I couldn't tell you exactly why that was removed, other than the fact that it does show up in other sections. So we can look at them, and those sections are going to have a different amount of time. Some of them are going to be 60 days, some of them are going to be 90 days, some are going to be 120 days. It may have been because of the fact that we have so many different requirements based on the project type that maybe it was that 75% being an overall was just maybe a little too constrictive and a little too difficult for the COC as a whole to reach.
Yeah, and I'm not going to belabor this because it's going to come back again, but I would say these were set up to be somewhat aspirational. And when we first set them, we said we needed a goal to reach towards and attain, and I get it. If you don't hit it. The other comment I would just make quickly, if we're going to come back to this again, is the benchmark kind of one sheet that we have. I would spell out some of the acronyms because I have no idea I think I know what SSN means benchmark or DOB benchmark, but I'm guessing. So just kind of what that is.
Yeah, so that benchmark, that page is super boring and annoying. This is all about whether you enter the required HUD universal data elements in your projects. So which is not, but that's fine. We'll
I'm just saying if somebody's reading this,
Yeah.
That'd be good. Okay, all right, we're a tiny bit over, so because of us not able to take action on this, and we'll have this discussion, Sam, at the next future meeting. Thank you, and I appreciate all of it. You know, it's important stuff. Any public comment? Okay.
The homeless persons memorial service is, we host that annually, and that is gonna be on December 22nd. It's a Friday, 4:30 at the Unitarian Universalist Church in Sneaky, which is on Mirror Lake.
Oh, and don't forget to sign up for Point in Time Count.
January 25th.
January 25th.
2024.
All right, any further action? Do I have a motion to?
Actually, yeah.
We will continue meeting until January.
All right, well, thank you all for attending. Our new people, thank you for being here. It's important. We'll look forward to members of Pinellas County Schools joining our meetings. Very important. And we'll see you next. Thank you so much. Hope you have a nice week.
Are we allowed to reach out to somebody?
Yes.
To say, can you like come to the meeting?
Thank you all.
Yeah, because we used to